today's DataVox webinar, Navigating Through the Pandemic with Aruba, presented by Aruba. My name is Jessica, and I will be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this webinar through Cisco WebEx events, and this audio can be heard through your PC or by calling into the phone number listed and with the access code provided in your confirmation email or calendar invite for this event. Today's webinar is being recorded on behalf of DataVox, and participation in this event indicates your consent to being included in that recording. All attendees will receive an email with a link to the completed recording 24 to 48 hours post-event. If you have questions for the presenters at any time during this presentation, you may submit those questions via the Q&A feature to the bottom right of your screen. This should already be turned on. Simply click Q&A and the text box will appear. Our panel will be responding to these questions verbally at the conclusion of the presentation. If you are in need of support or have a question not pertaining to today's topic, please utilize the chat feature and I will be happy to assist you. This feature is separate from the Q&A feature and can be turned on by clicking the chat bubble in the lower center of your screen. Now that we have reviewed the features of this webinar, we would like to start off today's presentation with a few words from our VP of Sales, Greg Smith. Greg, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you, Jessica. As Jessica mentioned, Greg Smith, VP of Sales with DataVox. First of all, we appreciate your attendance at today's webinar focused on business continuity solutions partnered with Aruba, a Hewlett-Packard enterprise company. Aruba is a leading provider of critical network infrastructure, which is the building block for connectivity, but it's also the foundation for everything else that rides in the network. This includes not only remote workforce applications, but also includes things like supporting intelligent medical devices for healthcare, delivering internet and applications for students in education, supply chain applications like SAP, collaboration applications like the phone system or video conferencing. Ultimately, nothing works without the network. With us today, we have Terry, Leonard, Kirby, and Al from HPE and Aruba to tell us a bit more about how Aruba is helping during this time with both their advanced technology solutions as well as their financial offerings. Over to you, Terry.
Great. Thanks, Greg. You see the prezo and you can hear me okay?
Yep.
Greg, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay. All right, good. Thanks. A little audio there. So welcome, everybody. Appreciate your time this afternoon. Greg and Jessica, thank you for the invitation here at the DataVox for your webinar series. Myself coming in, I'm going to kind of set the stage. Leonard is going to come in and assist us on the actual solutions that we're utilizing for the workforce. Kirby is going to deliver the security components around the remote office workers. The piece that Leonard's delivering is around RAP, or remote access points. The security piece of this is going to be called ClearPass. Al Swartz has joined us as well around the finance, and then I'm going to wrap things up around the donation that Aruba is providing, $50 million to the healthcare in the times that we're in today. So let's kind of, let's get on a little bit on the same page here. I've got four different verticals: healthcare, retail, general workspace, and schools, and we're going to talk a little bit about all of those and how the challenges that have been presented to us, through where we're at today. So we're talking a little bit about telemedicine. We've got the pop-up tents that are all over the country, working from home, which, I've been fortunate to have been doing this now for about 15 years from the house. We've got the call centers, right? That presents a very interesting challenge when we have hundreds or thousands of people all congregated into one facility. Now we're looking at some alternatives. And then, of course, in the schools around distance learning. So let's talk about this. The healthcare piece of this is around the capacity, the supplies. And traditionally, as we all know, most hospital employees, work at the office, not at the house. And then, of course, we're also looking at testing locations. I know that here in Texas, Governor Abbott is talking about all the massive amounts of testing that they want to do because they're loosening things up and moving people back to work. So that's probably going to incur many locations in order to do the pre-testing. So that's part of a challenge, which using technology. All right. The other part of that is in the retail environment, and we're so notable as far as going into the food stores today. You know, there's a certain amount of revenue being lost across the board in retail. We want to keep the doors open. You know, the supply and demand, as we know and seen and gone out and done shopping, is a little bit on the you know, somewhat on the crazy side. And of course, you know, protecting and keeping the employees in a more stable environment using technology is very top of mind. Education, for all of those who have students who are now at home, you know, being, you know, moms and dads and now teachers above and beyond of what you were doing from a teacher. You're a full-time teacher, class delivery, distance learning. Another big support, which is our challenge is when we put these packages together, you know, how do we get the products out to the homes and get those operational, because, you know, the parents, it's all new to them, the technology, it's a little intimidating. So we're trying to figure out, you know, how we can do that from a manufacturer to those who are users. And then obviously one of the big components for the education at home is collaboration. I will say one thing on the education side, because we've done this a couple of times already, is that there are students out there in neighborhoods, low-income neighborhoods, where a lot of us already have high-speed internet at our homes, and there are low-income areas where they don't have the ability to have high-speed internet. So one of the things that Aruba has done with some of the school districts around Texas is we're putting together these outdoor access points in the parking lots for these schools so that the parents can take their child with the laptops and go to the parking lot and actually upload the information from the teacher for their schoolwork. They either do it out in a parking lot or they go back home, do it, and then come back and upload. So, you know, there's a lot of creativity going on. I mentioned this earlier about the call center challenges. You know, lots of people calling in, depending on your type of business. You could be overrun with a tremendous amount of inbound calls. We still want to keep the customer sat up, the tools, and the reporting and metrics. So taking that individual, that agent, and moving them into a home environment, we have to take what they have at the office and move it to the home and make it look, act, and feel the same as before. And of course, we're doing all of this, and the majority of the movement of the workforce is to the home. So still providing that connectivity of the corporate resources. Obviously, security and compliance, we still have to follow through on all of those rules that we are responsible for as a corporation. Still have to be applied, even though now we're bringing remote access into the picture. Employee sat and then employee productivity. We want to still provide those features and options to all of those employees at the home office. From an Aruba standpoint, we're looking at the solutions. There are a lot of products that Aruba brings to the table. We're obviously today being very specific because of the remote access and security, obviously the finance component. But going into a testing environment, utilizing outdoor equipment, the performance still has to be there. As we say here at Aruba, because of the speed and the connectivity, you don't have to go in and do all of this specialized wiring. You just come in with the APs in a wireless environment and still provide that high-speed connectivity to the applications that need it. And then, of course, creating simplification but very functional solutions as we move into a home-type office environment. What you're seeing right now is the portfolio that we're going to talk about today. So the access points, both indoor and then down on the bottom right-hand side in those containers, are the outdoor APs. So we're going to be speaking in behalf of this specific product line and portfolio. So with that, I'd like to turn this over to Leonard, who's going to go through the steps in order for us to create a remote access environment. He's going to talk about these three, and then we're going to be specific on remote access points. Leonard?
Okay, folks, good afternoon. My name is Leonard Koska. I'm the Channel Systems Engineer for the TOLA plus Mississippi Territory, working with Terry Edge. Today we're going to talk about Aruba's remote solutions and how they help the IT departments address the daunting task of supporting a workforce that is highly mobile and requires access to the same resources at the corporate office that they're used to. So we have a number of different portfolios and a number of different ways to do this. From doing a virtual internet access, which is a VPN connection back, to an instant AP clusters, where you could have several of the APs out at a remote or a branch location where the folks can stay enough apart but still be able to do their access. But today we're going to really kind of focus in on the remote access points, or what we call RAPs. Now, everyone always is asking, like, okay, well, that's great. You're gonna put an access point in my house, but how's that really going to work? So here's how it works. We drop ship a RAP to your home. When the RAP arrives at your home, basically what you do is you unpack it, you plug it in, you connect it to your broadband router, your DSL, your cable modem, whatever you're connected to. The RAP will then call back to the mobility controller, which is the device where it communicates and the device that controls it, and we'll connect and set up an IPsec tunnel. What this is a secure set of communications back to the mobility controller so that all your information is protected. The mobility controller will then send down the information in the configuration to the RAP. So it is plug and play, or what we like to call zero-touch provisioning. You don't have to do anything other than plug it in and power it up, and then it will do all the connection for the configurations. Now, once it's connected, you can actually add additional devices to it. So it's got a secure connection. So if you need that home phone that's connected to your PBX back at the corporate office, all you have to do is plug it into the RAP. There's a port in there that has PoE, which is Power over Ethernet, which allows the phone to power up, and then the phone will connect back to the PBX at the corporate office, and you will now have a phone just as if you're sitting at your desk at the office. You can also go into having, if they don't have a home phone, what they could do is set up an SSID, which is a way for you to connect to the Wi-Fi for your phone. So you could actually have an encrypted tunnel that's for your smartphone that would go back to the corporate office and then out to the internet and would act and look just like your phone from the office. Now, once it's set up, if you have your laptop, which I'm sure all of us do, we have our laptops at home because that's the way we communicate, what it will do is it will allow you to connect through the Wi-Fi and through the RAP back to the corporate office so that you not only have access to all the resources, the data, and the information that you normally have connected back to the corporate office or sitting at your office, but it will act just like you're at your office. So there's no additional logins, there's no additional software that needs to be loaded. You simply have that tunnel there and you're going just as if you're sitting at your office at home. Because what this does is this extends the corporate network out to your home to give you that capability of basically creating an office at home. It also allows you a little additional. You can actually take advantage of the existing printers and things that are at your house, as you see by the little orange line going up to the printer. So you can take use of things that are at your home and be able to use those as well as use the corporate assets, because nobody's going to print and then go to the office. I mean, they're not going to let you in. But you also have the access so that you can go out to the internet. And that way, if you do have to have something, you can go out to the internet, and it does not send anything back through the corporate office. It simply goes directly out to the internet, so you can use your own broadband for internet access. Now, one of the things we're seeing a lot of is that we're not alone at home. Most of us, just like me, I've got my 21-year-old college daughter here. I've got my brother and my parents. So we're all at home. And so when you have your family there, one of the things that you can do and the company can set up is they can set up an SSID that's for the family. And what this allows the family to be able to do is not only access resources at the house like the printer or whatever else they're wanting to access, but it also allows them the access to go out to the internet. But at the same time, they have zero access to go back to the corporate office. So the security right there prevents them from being able to get anywhere but where they need to go. Similar to what you normally have when you have guests come to your corporate office and they log in and they can't really see your corporate office. All they can see is just the internet. Okay, you want to move on? One of the big things that this gives you an advantage to is redundancy. The remote access points, or RAPs as we like to call them, they not only can create one or multiple, but they can have multiple ways to connect. So the first thing it does is, like you saw before, it sets up an active IPsec tunnel back to the corporate office. That's a secure encrypted tunnel that goes back to your corporate office, whether it's to your data center or to your corporate office or wherever they have the mobility controllers that they're going to have that access. The second thing it does is it can set up a backup IPsec tunnel. So if you happen to lose something or the first IPsec tunnel crashes, the second one will take over. But if the data center, for whatever reason, got flooded or say they had a power outage or something, it has a backup, which is the one you see down there in gray, which stays down. It doesn't stay active, but once it notices that the first sets are no longer there, it will come up, and now you'll be connected to the data center too. So you have that failover capability. And if all else fails, there's a USB stick you can place in a wrap that will allow you to have LTE 4G connectivity to a wireless provider. So basically, this makes sure that a person that's at home has the capability of doing whatever they need, wherever they need. And here's one of the really cool things. If you have, like, say, an office somewhere else and you want to take that wrap, you can take that wrap to the other office, and it will reconnect back up to the corporate office, and there's no additional configuration necessary. Now, grant you, your family may be a little ticked at you because you just took the internet away, and they got to go back to the broadcast. Now, like I said before, one of the great things about the way this works is it uses zero-touch provisioning, which is a plug-and-play process. What it does is once the wrap connects up, it automatically connects back to Aruba Activate, where the configurations and the settings are for what the wrap should do. And what it will do is it'll tell the wrap, okay, here's your controllers over here. At that point, the wrap will then set up all that's necessary for its IPsec tunnels back to the mobility controller, and you're up and going. So this is why I was saying you can move this thing around, and it doesn't care. It's not geolocation based. It will go wherever you need it to go. So why over something like a VPN or another type of a process would this be important? Well, remote access points have huge advantages. First of all, they're simplified in-user access. They connect exactly the same way you do everywhere, anywhere, just like you're at the office. They're secure. They're encrypted. The authentication takes a process in the back end, so you don't have to worry about anything. It gives you access to all the stuff that you want. There's policies that are applied and rights uses applied, so nobody can just go over there, set up, and connect to your wrap and think that they're just going to connect directly to the corporate office. It's not going to happen. You know, they might be able to connect to your guest network and go out, but they're not going to connect to you. There's no additional clients, no additional credentials, no additional software needed, so there's less mistakes because you yourself don't have to do anything. It's all done on the back end for you, plug and play wise. And then, of course, for your IT staff, this is really simple because it's managed through Central and it's managed from the corporate office. Every access point becomes an extension of the corporate network. So all of your IT people can help you and not only troubleshoot or make sure that you got what you want, but they can make sure that everything's running without you having to do anything. Now, we have a few things going on right now that could really help with customers on it, is that we have no obligation offers for our instant APs and VPN licenses, which we haven't really talked a lot about. Our VIA license, which is a VPN connection back to the corporate office. And here's another thing I just want to throw in real quick, that if you have the controllers back at your office stuff, you can use a VIA license on the fly if you need to. Say you're like at a coffee shop or something, you can use that VIA license, that VPN connection, to get a secure connection without having to drag your wrap up to a hotspot, which I don't think they like you doing anyway. So, and of course, we have the remote access points licenses that are up to 90 days. So right now, you can kind of get all the licenses that you need to get rolling and doing without any cost.
Great. Thanks, Leonard. I appreciate that. Good update. Next, we'd like to talk about the security for the products that Leonard was just discussing. And the product line that we have here is ClearPass, and Kirby Ross is going to provide information on that security connectivity.
Perfect. Thank you, Terry, for the introduction. Again, Kirby Ross. I'm a local Aruba systems engineer in the Houston area. And to kind of go on top of what Leonard has been talking about with the remote access points, it's that ability to extend your corporate network and your corporate security out to the home or on the move or wherever your users are today. ClearPass is going to help with that. And ClearPass is going to be Aruba's AAA Radius TACAC server. And so what ClearPass does is it helps authenticate users, devices, anything on any of your network access devices onto the network. And the way it does this is through visibility, control, and response. The first step is, of course, visibility. ClearPass has a few built-in measures that what we do is we go in and we're able to see using DHCP information, such as what the device is doing, who's trying to connect, where they're trying to connect, how they're trying to connect, and what authentication and authorization they have on the back end. So if a remote user is trying to connect, they may have the correct credentials to get on the corporate wireless, but if their family members have someone that's trying to access the guest network that only needs internet access, they can go through that way as well. We're able to detect the different roles based on who is authenticating and how. That's done through the control. So with this, with ClearPass, you're able to kind of automate some of these workflows and how users can connect to those devices. And then, of course, the back end is the response. With ClearPass, you're able to kind of have and utilize Aruba's role-based policies and the visibilities that they provide. So next slide, Terry. The second part to that is a lot of customers require a lot more visibility. And so what we've done is added an additional module, and this is called ClearPass Device Insight. This is a cloud-based application with an on-prem VM or hardware server. And what it does is it just kind of sits there. You can feed all of the data through your corporate sites to see, okay, what's going on my network and see who and what is actually connecting. A lot of the times we see iPads connect and they may be in a specific role. Well, maybe that iPad is actually a meeting room and should have a different access on top of that. What this does is it gives you the ability to differentiate between an iPad who is on the guest network, who is only using it for Netflix or Facebook or something like that, or a meeting room iPad. And so with ClearPass, this is able to understand who is connecting. And with RAPs, you're able to see who is connecting to that RAP, even at a remote site. And that's both ClearPass and ClearPass Device Insight.
Great, great. Thanks, Kirby. Appreciate that. And then Al is going to talk to us about the HPE Finance Offers. Al?
Great. Thank you for the time. I appreciate it. You know, my part in the whole equation is how do we help customers in today's environment, you know, pay for the solutions that we're talking about. And we put together some offerings that can help customers through this time. A few of them here are listed. We can do other things as well, but I'm going to run through these highlights because these are solutions that customers are really taking advantage of today. One of them being our payment relief program. And what that allows customers to do is pay 1% of the sales price per month for the first 8 months. And then we'll solve for the remaining finance or lease term for whatever that is. So if it's 36 months, it'll be 8 at 1% per month, followed by 28 payments. And the logic behind this one is to allow customers to pay a very minimum amount in 2020 in hopes that by 21, everybody's back on their feet and, you know, we're kind of almost back to business as usual. So it's a pretty good offer. It's very aggressive, and it really is something that's getting a lot of traction with a lot of customers, again, especially in today's world. So something to consider as you're moving forward looking at these offerings. The other one we have is a 90-day deferral plan. And that, again, is it's not net 90-day terms, but it's no payments for the first 90 days, followed by payments for the remaining life of the financing or lease. So you got to have a minimum 12-month term behind it. But again, we're offering the customers the ability to not make a payment for up to 90 days and then follow it up by regular payments. So of the two, the 1% offer is, I'm seeing more traction with that because when you compare both side by side, you know, you're actually paying less, obviously, with the 1% per month for 8 months as opposed to the other. So if you're looking for cash flow help, the 1% per month is great. And then the other offering we have is our 0% extendable offer for Aruba product. And that is a 0% offer for 36 months. And then we'll work with you to, you know, customize that solution based on, you know, your exact configuration and all that. So again, 3 offerings that are good. We can customize things as you go as well, depending on your solution and where you're at from a credit perspective and what you're interested in trying to accomplish. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Great. No, great. Thanks, Alan. And for all of those who are wanting to get more of the details and T's and C's, you know, definitely work with the DataVox team, and they will engage us as well as Al to assist you on that. Kind of coming into the final run here, but I did want to make everybody aware, any of those who are on the call that are part of the healthcare world that we are in today, Aruba is donating $50 million in product and, for frontline assistance. A lot of times in these pop-up tents that we're seeing for testing, some of the makeshift hospitals that are coming up on parking lots or in parks or wherever, but there's a $50 million product to provide those healthcare customers. There's two options I'm going to show you, but I got option one with several of our products along with 6 months of support, and then there's option two that comes in. This is kind of what a small site option one looks like with the outdoor access point, the 365. We've got a wireless, and again, as I said earlier, providing wireless connectivity with the throughput and the security that everybody's looking for. These are absolutely a necessity in order to extend that company's network out into the parking lot and into these tents. And then here's a second part of the bundle with a little bit larger area for testing and drive-through and multiple tents where we've got additional outdoor APs, and we also have a couple of our switches. We've got a UXI sensor in there that we didn't talk about, but that's like a remote probe that helps us potentially identify where throughput or issues may occur. So we've got an automated device on that. The other thing I wanted to put out there too, and some of you on this call may be an Aruba Airhead, which is part of our technical staff. I know that Leonard and Kirby are both part of the Airhead teams, but right now globally, Aruba has 317. That number is probably higher. I think this slide deck was done about a week ago, so we probably have more than that, covering 40 different countries. And 49% of that is employees. We got 28% that are partners like DataVox, and then customers, some of the technical staff and customers. But this is a volunteer core to help go out and implement technology solutions in the field, and this is being driven by the Aruba Airheads structure. So if any of you are interested in volunteering for that, obviously get back with DataVox and they'll get with us, and we'd be more than happy to put you in contact with everybody. So Greg and Jessica, with that, we'd like to get into some of the questions. Do we have anything posted right now?
Yes, Terry, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Yeah, we've got a few questions that came in. I'll run through those. So first question, if we have an existing Aruba access point, can I use that as a wrap, a remote access point?
Okay.
Yeah.
Kirby or Leonard?
Any of the newer wraps from the 300 series and stuff, any of the access points that we have today in the market can be used for a wrap. So you can take any of your indoor access points and you can load them with the wrap module and turn them into wraps.
Perfect. Okay. The next question, I think, is one for Kirby. Is ClearPass Insights part of ClearPass or a separate service?
So ClearPass Device Insight is actually a separate service. So it can be a VM or hardware with cloud management, but it runs in tandem. It can run separately as its own kind of monitoring service, or it can run in tandem with ClearPass to provide ClearPass and the rest of your network with additional information.
Okay, perfect. And if you have any more questions about that, just get with us and we can take that offline. And the last question in the Q&A is one that I think is best answered by Al. Is the 2020 payment relief program only available for financing of Aruba equipment, or could I finance other things with it?
So it can be used for any solution, the total solution that DataVox is selling to a customer. So it can include the equipment, services, any of that. So we'll take the entire solution and roll it into the program for you.
Okay, perfect. Let me check. One more question. Can we configure the printers at home? Sorry. Bear with me 1 second.
Yeah, the question is, can you configure the printers at home owned by the user? Yes. What it does is the capability is wrap sets up a separate SSID for those sections, so you can actually use those printers as a resource from your home and it's basically allows that connectivity to that. So that's why it gives you that additional resources at home, so you can print at your home. You don't have to have a company provided printer. Now that would be great if your company's willing to ship you a printer, but no, you can take use of the one you already own.
Okay. And one more question here. What is the minimum internet bandwidth required for a remote access point?
Well, I'm running off of a DSL out here with my wrap through all my sections, and I'm on the phone call right now. So, you know, most any of your access today will work.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, performance is going to be dictated by, you know, bandwidth and the reliability of it, and depending on the application, whether you're looking to run a, you know, phone or video at home versus typical data-based applications, you know, it's application dependent as well.
Yeah, application-wise, like I said, phone-wise, it's not that big of an issue because, I mean, I run my wrap and I run my Bluetooth through my phone through it. So yeah, there's a lot more capability to do it, but yeah, it's kind of redundant based on the speed that you have and the capability. Like right now, I know that a lot of folks are on the internet, so things are a little slower than normal. But almost anything, DSL, broadband, LTE, like I said, I've run LTE before to connect out, and that is actually one of the backup processes for the wraps is LTE. So if you lose all your other connectivity, like your broadband, you can use the LTE to connect back to your cellular provider. And that would be based on how far away your cellular provider is from your house.
Okay, another question that's come in is, what if the device is lost or stolen? Can we disable it remotely or make it unusable? I think that's referring to the remote access point as well.
Yes, you can. You can disable it remotely. So normally with a wrap setup, you can have additional layers of like authentication against a controller. But if you disable that, say that MAC address of that AP on the controller or through ClearPath, you're able to disable that AP from ever connecting back to your corporate environment.
Okay. There's one other question related to pricing of the remote access point. We'll just handle that one. We'll take that one offline and provide you some feedback on that immediately following.
Yeah, because that depends on which wrap you're talking about. Because like I said, all of our AP portfolios can be used as converted to wraps.
Thanks, Leonard. I think that concludes the Q&A questions that were out there. So I appreciate, it's always good to have involvement from the folks that attend, so I appreciate that. I just wanted to close, first of all, thanks to the Aruba team and Al from HPE Financial. That was great information. I did want to highlight a couple of webinars that are happening tomorrow. One of those is at 2 p.m. tomorrow. We're fortunate enough to have an ex-FBI cybersecurity expert presenting on trending security topics in partnership with HPE Enterprise, so the parent company of Aruba. So that'll be tomorrow at 2 p.m. And if you're interested in cybersecurity, at 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, we'll be hosting a session on cybersecurity user awareness training. So if your organization doesn't have a user awareness training established and rolled out, or if you're not happy with the one that you have, tune into that tomorrow morning. It's a really critical part of the overall cybersecurity strategy. With that, over to you, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Greg, and thank you all for attending today's webinar. As a reminder, the recording link for today's session will be emailed to all attendees 24 to 48 hours post-event. If you did enjoy today's session and would like to hear more, we do offer new webinars weekly. Please check our DataVox website for more information on upcoming sessions. And as always, we would love to hear your feedback on our events. Once this webinar has ended, you will be redirected to a survey page. If you could please take a moment to complete the survey before closing out your browser, we'd greatly appreciate it. That concludes our session for today. Oh.
Yeah, there's one last question that just popped in.
Okay.
So, when we say router, we're talking about what you have at your home that you probably have through your provider. But you could use the wraps to connect directly out to the internet, and it would go out and find its way. But you'd still have to have some way to connect to it. So like if you added a way to get a DHCP address from your provider, you could use it directly out. But most folks put them in front of their routers at home because it just makes it more simplified.
Great. Thanks,
Okay.
Leonard. Yep.
Thank you. All right, well, that concludes our session for today. Thank you to the Aruba team for a great presentation. Thank you all for attending. Have a great day.